I'm sure that at some point in your life, you have experienced a high. And if you're lucky, you've even experienced a number of highs, high points. But I'm also certain that these high points did not last. I'm certain that at some point, that feeling of high, that feeling of intense consolation died down. It did not last. But somehow, despite the fact that it did not last, in some way, I'm sure, it also did last. What do I mean by that? In my life, I've been lucky to have a number of high experiences. But there is one particular experience that I consider like perhaps the highest point. And while that point did not last very long, I remember years later when I would face difficulties, trials, challenges, I would always go back to that point, to that high, to that moment. And that somehow would make the difficulties, the challenges, a bit more bearable. Still difficult, still painful, but a little bit more bearable. I guess because that high moment tells me that, things are never permanent. In the same way that high moments go down, low moments go up. And that there's just that cycle of life. And I guess that's really what this story, this gospel story we heard about today is all about. Understandably, when you're in a high, you'd want to just stay there. And that was really the plea of Peter, James, John. Lord, can we just be here? Can we just stay here? This is so great, magnificent. Can we just stay here? But not long after, things go back to normal. And it's just Jesus they see, and eventually they go down from the mountain. And I guess it's the same thing with us. When we're on a high, we want to remain there, but somehow we have to go through that journey of going down from that high. But that does not take away the value of that moment. Because I think the value of that moment carries on. It's carried forward when we face these difficult times. Surely, the world is not right now is not on a high. And it's not even on a normal level. It's really almost on rock bottom. With the pandemic, with the number of deaths that we have, the uncertainty, the difficulties, the illnesses, mental health issues, loneliness. And of course, there are other issues, other concerns. What happened in Lebanon just recently? What happened in the U.S. with the George Floyd issue? There are so many things going on around the world, and sometimes you wonder, where are we in? I mean, And sometimes we're drawn to despair. But I think it is in these moments when high experiences are truly valuable. Those moments, probably from way back, from years ago, when we were so sure that God loved us, when we were so sure that everything will be okay. I think now is the time to take that out. It's if that's probably buried somewhere deep within us, a memory deep within our minds. And I think now is the time to access that, to remind ourselves of it. I think that's this experience of the transfiguration of Peter, James, and John. I am almost sure that somehow this memory, this experience, helped them when Jesus went through his passion and death. In those moments when the apostles didn't know what was happening, were so desolate, sad, I'm sure somehow this experience of the transfiguration and the many other experiences with Jesus helped them to carry through. And I guess that is the invitation for all of us. We're invited to remember. We're invited to look back, to access those high moments that are buried deep within our hearts, those memories buried deep within our minds, and to make use of that moment or moments to remind ourselves that despite all that's happening, despite all the difficulties, we will be okay. Because we have a God who loves us and who cares for us. Amen.